difference between winners and losers. Huge gap. We're going to cover a few of those things. Number one, winners always find a way to win. No matter what the situation, it seems like successful people find a way to win. Okay? Losers tend to find reasons why they can't win. That's the difference between the two. So, that being said, successful people, there's a few traits that a lot of these people have. I know quite a few people that have been very successful in and around me, and I've noticed a lot of things that have helped make them that way, and from talking to them and so on and so forth. So, a few of those things are, they basically are people that do what the majority of people won't do. Okay? The majority of people aren't willing to take chances and risks and so on and so forth, and this minority of people actually are not afraid to do that, and they live for that opportunity. I in my mind, my whole process is I live for the next challenge. I'm always up for the next challenge, and I'm not afraid of different businesses. Even if I don't know anything about them, I'm not scared of those because I've stepped out of my box. I got away from myself and the insecurities that I've had, and I've had businesses that have been successful and still have to this day. So these are some of the traits. All right, so they don't take no for an answer. This is one of the biggest things that I've heard from a lot of different people, is that if they're in situations where they're not gaining access, like let's say you start a lawn care company and you're not getting much traction, and instead of giving up and saying, oh, this isn't going to work for me, you know, I've tried, this is my third year and I've just tried and I can't make it work, so I'm quitting. Well, these people don't know the word quit. Okay? There's a time in your life when you have to look at things and say, have I really done everything? Have I done all I could do to make this business work? For example, right now we started a new CBD shop. Sales are slow right now, okay? We just got it started. I know it's going to take time for that to gain traction and to get going. It'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'll move on to something else. I'm not just going to sit idle, okay? I'm not just going to sit and wait for the world to cave in around me, all right? Those most successful people use their minds a lot more than their back. And what I mean by that is they're generally out of the truck and they are focusing on growing their business. You could have a person with one business and that's all he's doing is eating, shitting, and thinking about how to grow his business. Okay? That guy will generally be way more successful than all the rest of the guys around him doing the same thing, because this guy is living for it. He's after it. He's trying to make everything work, and he's trying to grow his business all the time. So there is a difference between people that are constantly trying and they're learning. You know, that's the other thing I noticed. Their minds are open to other things, you know. I mean, I'm always trying to learn other things from other people and other businesses, and that's why I pay attention to things that they do. If they advertise on TV, if they advertise on the radio all the time, there's different things that people do in our town to grow their businesses, and the same in your town. I know one guy that runs radio ads that are just annoying as hell, but yet everyone knows who he is. And the guy sells cars, and he's just a multi-millionaire, and he's buying up land all over the place and all this kind of stuff, you know. Just an example. The other thing these guys do, successful people sacrifice. They sacrifice a ton of their time to grow their businesses instead of, let's say Joe Blow just goes to work Monday through Friday and that's it, and he doesn't do anything on the weekends. He doesn't put in long hours during the week. He's not taking the sacrifices that sometimes need to be made to make your business grow. Okay? There's a lot of sleepless nights. We've spent a ton of time in the off time, even when we're out of the office. We're still talking about things we need to implement tomorrow, or things we need to look into, or I'll go on YouTube at night or something and I'll find new ideas about things, marketing, that I didn't think about before, and then we'll try and implement those if they're feasible, you know. So there's a lot of sacrifice of time and effort that goes into growing businesses for successful people. All right. Successful people tend to save their money. You always hear the expression, that guy has got every nickel he ever made. You know, he saved every nickel he ever made. Well, maybe the guy did, you know. And there's a huge amount of success to be made off of that. to save your money and then reinvest your money into something, okay? The majority of Americans today don't save money. And it's not, you don't even have to be the ones that just blow it on whatever. I mean, the cost of living is high enough, you know. And I know it's difficult to save money. It was difficult years ago to save money. There's still ways to do it. Successful people find ways to save money and then they reinvest it in something. And a good example of that would be if I went out today and I made, say, $1,000 today or this week, and I was able to save $100 of that. And I can put that in a bank and I get like 1% interest on it. Or I can take that money, set it aside until I get enough money to, say, buy a new piece of landscaping equipment or a new mower or something like that. And now I can go out and make money with that, which is way more than that 1% that I would have got at a bank. Okay? So that's just an example. But they do reinvest their money. Everybody does. And they invest it in things that make them money. Sometimes you lose money, sometimes you make money. It's kind of like the stock market. You know, you just don't know. Like right now, you could be all in for a landscape install company. So you go out and you buy dump trucks and a skid steer and a backhoe, and all of a sudden the recession hits and you are going to lose your ass. You are going to lose everything, because when that recession hits, the big install projects almost come to a standstill. And that's been my experience, and I've lived through a few of these, and it's ugly. It really is. And thank God we had a maintenance division, the lawn mowing, that helped pull us through. Today we have multiple streams of revenue coming in, so we're in much better shape than what a lot of people are going to be when the recession hits. And it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It has happened. I think it's like 43 times or something like that throughout the history of America, but it was supposed to be like 30% of the time we're in a recession. And it's a roller coaster, and it continues to happen, and it will continue to happen. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic for another video. But those people, also successful people, tend to live within their means. You know, you don't see them going out buying Cadillacs and this, that, and the other and all this fancy stuff usually until they are well off enough where they can do that and it's not going to bankrupt them if something goes bad. Okay? So they're very careful with their money. Anyway, again, the multiple sources of income. Successful people usually have multiple revenues or streams of income that are coming into their funnel, and that's their cash flow, you know. And so I've noticed that being a big difference. Like, say, for the majority of people, they kind of work in their business. Okay, so if you have your business, you tend to be the guy in the truck. You tend to be, you know, you and maybe you hired a friend and you guys are out mowing lawns and trying to make money that way. And that is, and I was guilty of it myself for the longest time, that is what the majority of people still do today. You know, you don't see a lot of big lawn maintenance companies. You see more and more starting to pick up. People are starting to get it. They're starting to focus on growing their business, which is fantastic to see that. I wish more people would do that. But instead, the majority of people just don't. You know, they stay in that solo mode, that solo mindset, and the sooner you can get out of that, the better, right? Most people that, I would say the majority of people just aren't willing to sacrifice today. They're not willing to give up their time at night, their beer time when they come home at 5 o'clock and, you know, they're drinking beers till 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Most people aren't willing to give up that time. And I think that's a big drawback, you know, and it's clearly a difference between successful people and people that are really not, is that sacrifice. You see that a lot. That being said, other people the majority of people don't like to invest their money very much. They're not thinking ahead. They don't think past the end of their nose, it seems like at times, and that's most of the time. I guess having gone through a recession once or twice here, I have seen it. I've seen it where the landscape installs have come to a halt, a screeching halt, and if it hadn't have been for the lawn maintenance part of it, we wouldn't have eaten that winter, you know. And so I see the importance of that. I see the importance of diversifying and having different things. So when times are good, the landscape install division just does excellent. We make a ton of money. You know, when times are bad, it backs off. That's just the way it works. There are some businesses you can get in that are just recession proof. I had a buddy that in Florida, he has like this big skating rink, and they do laser tag and whatnot in there, and they have pizza and beer and stuff like that in there. But the people will come to that all the time, and he tried to get me to go in on that with him, and I probably should have. He wanted to open one up down in Daytona, and he's like, this thing, it makes money no matter what, because people will spend money on some of these luxuries, okay, things that make people happy, you know. So there's businesses you can get in. I never would have thought that business would have held up in a recession, and he actually did more. He did more income. His business got better because people were depressed with this, that, and the other, you know, and they would just come down to him, and they'd spend money down there so their kids could roller skate or play laser tag or whatever, you know. All right. Also, I've noticed a difference in the majority of people tend to live beyond their means. So they don't need that big payment on that truck or car, but they go and they get it anyway, okay? They don't need that new house. You know, they could have rented until they saved up money for a house or something like that, but they don't do that. Everybody tends to get maxed out on credit cards. They tend to get maxed out at the bank. I mean, I guess, again, they're not thinking past the end of their nose, and that's the thing that just drives me crazy about people. Their mindset tends to be, that's good enough, okay? That's it, all the time. Well, that's good enough. You know, you could be working on a landscape job, and instead of going the extra mile on it, that's good enough, you know. Yeah, I know I got to change my business and I got to do something else so I make more money, but it's good enough for now. You know, you see that all the time. And I can preach till I'm blue in the face to people about you can't get these changes unless you make changes. People just don't get it. I don't know why. My famous saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know, but this is just some of the differences between successful people and the majority of people that are not. You know. Anyway, that being said, a lot of times too, you'll see people quit when the going gets tough. All right, and I remember talking to this friend of mine. Some of you have heard me talk about this guy with all these gas stations. Well, he's got like 25 or 35 gas stations, whatever he's up to now. But he told me time and time again, he's like, it's like a roller coaster. He's like, 1 minute we're on top of the world, next minute we lost a bunch of money, something happened, competition came in, whatever. And it's just like this all the time, you know. And he said, I can't tell you how many times I was almost filed for bankruptcy. And now the guy is just a multi-millionaire. And he's making awesome money. But he paid his dues. He did all these successful things, you know, that successful people do. And he wasn't cutting corners. He wasn't doing all the negative things that I spoke about. So there's always room for improvement on everything that you're doing, you know. You just got to be willing to do it. If you're not willing to take risks, that's another thing that I've noticed. And this is huge. This is so huge. So many of you out there want to sit there and think about it and say to me, George, I can't do it. I just can't, and I'm comfortable being a solo guy, and I'm this, that, and the other. A lot of the time, you're afraid of risk, and I understand that because there was a time when I was afraid of risk. Now, because I've lived it and I took chances. I opened vape shops that I knew nothing about. We opened a CBD store we know nothing about. We opened a garden center we knew nothing about. Started lawn care that we didn't know anything about. We started landscaping that we didn't know anything about. Started pest control that we didn't know anything about. Then we franchised the pest control. I mean, that franchising is a whole different ball game, a whole new animal. But I didn't know anything about any of these things. I had to learn. And I had to take risks. And if you're not willing to take risks, then you're never going to get anywhere. You are never going to get anywhere in this life. You can't go with that, it's good enough thing, because it's not good enough. You know, you could get hurt tomorrow and you're screwed. Winners find a way to win, and losers find excuses why they can't. That's the bottom line. I hope these pointers bring a little light to the subject for you guys, and I hope I get you to think about it. If you like this, you like seeing these videos, hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the little bell notifications so that you're alerted to the next time we put a video out. And don't forget to subscribe.